Hey guys, it's Andy here from the Mac Pro Club, and today I'm going to be doing the next part of my build a computer tutorial thing. So in the last video we realised that the DVI cable was not working, then it eventually worked with VGA. Found out it was the cable, not the port, which makes me happy because it's only a $7 replacement rather than a graphics card or a monitor or RMA board, which I did not want to do. So we're going to be moving this stuff right there into the case. So firstly, what you're going to need to do is turn off your power supply, because otherwise bad stuff will probably happen. And you'll need to disconnect the monitor cables and your keyboard and mouse from the computer. So once you've done that, you can probably want to move your monitor away, because we're going to need as much space as possible. Turn off your power supply and unplug the power cable to it. And you're also going to want to disconnect your power connector for the CPU and the power connector for the motherboard. Man, these things hard to take off. I'm going to go around the other side. There we go. So we have our power supply disconnected again, the VS450, and we can now proceed with moving the stuff into the computer case. Oh yeah, gotta move this too. So we have got the workspace cleaned and our case on our desk. So once you are ready, you can go and take off the two side doors from the computer. To do that, on the back here, you'll see there's some thumb screws which you'll have to remove and put aside. It's the other one here. And just put them down in a convenient location where they're not going to fall off or anything. This is only for this particular case, the Corsair Carbide Series 200R. There are some other Carbide cases that do require you to do this, but this is the main one where you have to do this. And I forgot to remove that door. And I did the same dropping with the other one. Okay, so once your case has been opened, you can see the inside of it. Looks very nice. So you're going to need to get your motherboard, and no, not put it in just yet, but instead get the I/O shield, which looks like this, if you don't know, and pop that into the back of the case. This, for many people, for some reason that I do not know of, causes blood, sweat and tears. For some reason, I have no idea why, but I'll see if they aren't lying. Move the fan cable thing out of the way. Stay, whatever. I'll go check the screws. So you get it right there, and snaps into place. God, if anything did hurt me, it was the fan had a cable. So, yeah. Okay, the I/O backplate is now in. If I flip the case around, you can see it is in. So now that you have done this, you're going to want to put your case down like this and figure out where the screw holes will need to go. So you want to move this cables out of the way, and you'll see there's these little, what do you call it, standoff things. So you'll need to get your motherboard right here, and just place it in the case with the, again, the fan header cable out of the way. So you want to place it in so you can figure out where the screw holes need to go. You basically need to match up the screw holes with where they are on the motherboard. So I'll do that and I'll be back. Well, it turns out that with this case, Corsair thinks that, well, you're not going to need to screw every screw on the motherboard in, so we'll just leave the standoffs as they are. So that screw gets used, that one gets used, that one does not get used, that one gets used, that one's an alignment pin, that one does not get used, that one gets used, and I think that one gets used. I think. Not 100% sure. Anyway, we're not going to install the motherboard just yet because we have a spaghetti style power supply, so it's more efficient to install the power supply now. So what we're going to do is get out the case and flip it back around like so, and we're going to install the power supply with its extremely messy set of cables. So you just get the power supply and basically put it in and not sit on the thumb screws that hold the case together. I'm definitely going to move these things. If I can pick them up and move them over here. So, get the power supply and attempt as hard as you can to get this thing in without absolutely failing, which I am doing right now. God, how do you do this? I'm failing like really badly right now. Really? I'll be back once I get this thing in. So after a lot of fighting with that thing, I managed to get the little bugger in. So now I'm going to get this spaghetti of cables and put them through this little hole we have right in here. So I'm not sure if it'll be able to get them all to come through in one go, but this basically will help immensely with the keeping the inside of the case tidy, especially if you have a spaghetti style power supply. Got everything. Gonna make sure all the I/O cables are in nicely. And so now that the power supply is in, we can get the little screws that came with it and, well, screw it in. So the screws are there. If I turn the case around, you can see here we have the screw points, and we also have a little dust filter on the bottom here, thought I'd point that out, which is why I face the power supply with the fan facing down. So I'm going to get my little Phillips head screwdriver. Not exactly little, but I have one. So yep. I have the screwdriver. So we are going to get the screw, put it in there, put the screw in a little bit, and screw it in. Holding it in that way. Then we get another screw, and like the power supply, we do it in a diagonal fashion. Wait, did I say power supply or the CPU? Stupid screws. I'll be back once I get this thing in. So I finally managed to get the cursed power supply in. I say cursed because that was a nightmare to put in the case. Anyway, so now that we've done that, I'm going to tap the case in again to prevent electrostatic discharge. And I'm going to install the motherboard. So the case should have come with some screws. Not those ones. Not those ones. Not those ones. Oh god, which ones are they? I think it's this one. I think they're these screws. I hope they are, anyway. So I'm going to figure out how I can put this case down without messing up the power cables. Probably just put them through here for now, and put the case down like that, and reorientate the camera so that I can get a good view of it. So, I'm going to pick up the motherboard, and one more time I'm going to discharge, because I'm paranoid about this, because this is really my first time doing build in several years. So yeah, position the board like so. Make sure your power cables are out of the way. Move the motherboard in so that you have your ports in the correct spots. Wiggle it around until you get that little notch in there, like that, which means that you have everything in correctly. So then you're going to need to get your screws. Just going to have another check to make sure these are the correct ones, because I want to use the screws that are designed to use the motherboard. These ones are definitely fan screws, and these ones are miniature screws. I think these are the ones. So I shall get, how many screws do I need for this? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need 4 screws for this motherboard, which you'd normally expect from an ATX board. This motherboard is micro ATX, not ITX. So get your screws and you basically screw the motherboard in, 1 screw at a time. That's one screw, and I'll be back once I get all the rest of the screws in because I need to charge my battery. So the motherboard is completely screwed in, which means we can get on to things like fans and other things like that, and cable management, which for some people might describe that as, well, hell. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is, one, reposition the camera, and I shall go get my fan splitter cable, which I'm essentially using so that I can connect the two fans to the one fan header on the motherboard, because my motherboard only has one header and I have two fans, and for optimal airflow you want to use both fans. So yeah, got fan header 1 right here, once I get this little cable off, and I have fan header 2 right here with the cable thing already off. So I'm going to get the cable and pull it all the way through so it is tight, so it's hard to see the cable, and this one you can't really see the cable anyway. And I'm going to get these two cables, and if you see, look on this thing, there's the little notch on them, so I'm going to line up the notch and connect the fans to their appropriate headers. So the fans are now connected, so I can go and find where it would connect to the motherboard, which appears to be through this area here, and I can go and connect it to the motherboard right there. I know it doesn't look very good because the it's colourful, but my case doesn't have a window, so it's alright. Next, we're going to need to connect the front I/O. So what you're going to need to do is get these cables here and thread them as far back as you can, while still allowing you to be able to connect it to the motherboard. In this case I have a USB 3.0 header, and I'm going to connect that right there. It is in, and I'm going to pull it as far back through here as I can. Here I have a HD audio thing, so I'm going to thread this back through here, because there's a neater way of doing this, and that is through here. I can thread it, and the HD audio jack is here. So there's a little notch here that's alignment pin. That made no sense, but I can then connect it to this green header here. Why won't it go in? And then I can again thread that as far back as possible while still keeping it neat. And then here we have the front panel things, which a lot of people describe as hell, because they are all separate, because the motherboard makers have not decided on a universal way of connecting them up. So I'm going to thread them through here, and we have our power switch, which seems to go on these headers here. We have our HD LED, which goes on these pins here. We have our reset switch, which goes there, and we have our power LEDs, plus and minus, which I shall figure out how they go, like whether or not they're positive or negative, because they are separate. Power LED seems to be positive is this one, and negative is that one. So that's our front I/O connected, and again we shall make sure that they are all tight. So that's the cables are harder to be seen. So now that we have done that, we can now go and connect our 24-pin connector to the motherboard through here, and through here, and we can bend it around, and it is in quite tightly, which again we want so that it is all neat. So then we want to get our not that one, this cable here. If you probably can't see it, but and you want to thread it through the back here, which is generally very difficult. There we go. We have it through, and we can go and connect the two pieces back together. I'd suggest when you're doing your build that you thread this cable through before putting the motherboard in. It makes it much easier. And you want to get this rotated and plug it in right. Make sure it doesn't separate. It and plug it in right here. Okay, that's in, and it's nice and tight, so the cables still again cannot be seen very well. And so now that we have done that, we need to put our hard drives and optical drives in. In my case, I've only got one of each. So in order to do that, we're going to need to take the front panel off on both sides. Off, and I will be back when I find my optical drive. Yeah. So I found my optical drive. Like, literally behind me. Yeah, I'm an idiot. But we did get the front panel off, and what you're going to need to do is remove one of these three panel things off for to put the optical drive in. If you're putting the computer like below the desk, then I suggest using the top one. If it's above the desk, then use the bottom one. So to do this, you literally just using the top one. How do you do this? You feel like that. I have no idea what I'm doing. Main thing. There we go. There we go, we've got the thing off, and we have a blank on there. So we can just go and put the front panel thing back on, if I can align it correctly. Okay, so that's now on. So we now have our optical drive, which is a Samsung SH244. We're just gonna get that and we'll just slide it in. And on here we have a little screwless bay thing, so we need to hold this thing out until it's in line and then just release it, and the drive is secure. So then we need to get our hard drive out of its little case thing and pull it right out. This is a WD Blue 1 terabyte drive, and we're going to make it so the connectors there are facing the back of the computer to prevent more cables. So we're going to put it in the bottom bay again to make it look neater. If this will let me. Hold the clip out, and there we go, the drive will not move, so we have basically got mission accomplished. The drive is in. So now we need to connect the drives to the motherboard and to the power supply. So we're going to flip the computer around 180 degrees and move these things out of the way. And we're going to get our SATA cables from our motherboard box. And luckily we have the exact amount that we need. So we're going to use the right angled cable, the one with the right angled connector, and we're going to connect that to the optical drive. So there's a SATA cable. We're going to need to feed this through here and connect it to the SATA connector on the optical drive, and that is in. And then we have this side of the cable, which we are going to put through here. And I'm going to flip the case back around so I can show you connecting the SATA cable to the motherboard. So we have the cable right here. And as you can see, the top one is the SATA 2 port. So we're just going to put that in there, nice and snug. And now we need to get the other SATA cable here and connect that to the hard drive. So I'm going to, again, move the case back around 180 degrees. And we're going to get one end of the cable and we will connect it to the hard drive. And then up through here again. Case back around. We're going to find the SATA cable that we just fed through, and we will get that and put it underneath into the SATA 3 port so that it can take the advantage of the speed for the burst transfers on the hard drive, because the hard drive is never going to saturate 6 gigabits per second. You'll only do that, you'll only get close to it for burst transfers. Don't worry, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm serious. So yeah, the top one is definitely SATA 2, so I've got all that correct. So now that we have connected our optical drives to the motherboard, we need to also connect them to the power supply, which is what these these SATA power connectors are for. So we're going to connect one of them to the hard drive. Right. I'll do this one. There, it's connected. And we'll get the other cable because we need the length. This one, wait, no, this cable here. Or is there a better way to do this? Please tell me there's a better way to do this. Looking at the power supply box, and it's saying that we do have 4 SATA power connectors. Got one connected and the other half's there. Got one on here and we've got one on here. And neither of them will reach. So what we're going to do is get this cable, which will reach, feed it through here and onto the SATA power connector on the optical drive, which is now in. And then we'll get one of these SATA connectors and connect that up to the hard drive. Will allow me to. Okay, it's in. All these cables are nice and tight. And now we have our hard drives connected. So there isn't much more to go now. I think all we have left to do now is the, what do you call it? Wi-Fi card. I think. Pretty sure. I didn't rip any parts or anything, so should be correct. So in here we have the Wi-Fi card itself and the antennas. So here we have the card and we're going to install it in the top slot, and even though this is a much longer slot than the card itself, it still goes in because they're both PCIe and they're keyed identically. So we can just get that and align it like so. Really. Let's card in. There we go. And then we can get the screw back in here. And then we can flip the case to the back and install the Wi-Fi things. Antenna, yeah. Just do that, and there we go. That's nice. So now that we have all the parts in the computer, we can go on to doing the cable management of this. So, yeah. Most of it's already done because we've already plugged in all the components. We just have to make it so that it's hard to see the cables from the other side. So what we're going to do is bundle some of the cables up around here. I think as many of these ones as I can. After doing them nice and tight. And then we can go and get a zip tie, which is included with the case. You get 3 with this case. Like these things, if you don't know what they are. you can feed it through this little hole here and get all the cables that you're going to be tying up, like so. It's pretty difficult. I've actually never done cable management before, so bear with me. Okay, so it seems the zip tie isn't very long by any means, so that doesn't really help, like, at all. So, good news is we do have a fair bit of space between here and the motherboard, so what we're going to do is get the cables that we aren't using, such as the PCIe power, and we're going to just lay it in this little area in here. And so it's pretty much hidden. There. We got this cable here, which we can also right along here. Got this one here, which we can hopefully do the same to somehow, or we can just, yeah. All I gotta hope is that I can get the back panel back on. That's probably gonna be the worst nightmare. You know what? Screw it. Who cares? It's already tight on the other side, so I'm going to get this back panel and see if I can somehow get it back on. Somehow. Hopefully. And yes, I just bumped the camera. Oh god, that's really bulging. Gotta do something about this. Let's get this back panel and see if we can somehow squeeze it on. And yes, I made the same mistake as when I was taking them off, dropping it. Going to lay the stupid case, well not stupid, but case down like so. Might help a little bit for getting the back panel on. Because of physics, that's why. Probably other reasons. Yeah, it's really bulging. How can I solve this? I really should have gone with a modular power supply, but my budget would not allow for it, so yeah. Let's try again. again. Put the top side down. This is probably the hardest part of building a computer. Getting the back panel back on. Let's get those thumb screws and screw this in. Hope and pray that I'll never have to see that again, because that's disgusting, basically. Like, it is actually bulging. I can press down onto it. It's terrible. There are reasons why you go with modular power supplies. Take my advice. You get a modular power supply when you build a computer. So that's done. We can flip the computer back around, and there we go. How does it look to you guys? Looks pretty nice to me. So what we're going to do now is, again, connect it to the power and make sure it still works after all that. So here's the computer. I'll put it on this side. I'll get my monitor, put it up here, and no, I'm not putting the back panel back on just yet, because it's a stereo. It's a what do you call it? Oh, I can't remember what you call it. Yeah. People just don't like to put the back panel on until they're sure that the computer boots in the case. So we are ready. For the first inside of case boot. Starting in 3, 2, 1. I've got to turn the power supply on again. There we go. Okay, it's booting up. Yes, there we go. Reboot and select proper boot device, or insert boot media in selected boot device and press a key. So there we have it. Our computer is in fact working. I'm going to turn it off and go into the BIOS this time. Bashing the delete key. There we go. So we are in the UEFI dual BIOS, as they call it, and this is where you can change all the settings, power management things, and all that. So anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video, which will be installing Mac OS X. Wish me luck.